Okay, so I have a very dear guest, Steve Beckow, and welcome to the Inner Realms podcast. The Inner Realms podcast focuses on the inner experiences of people and what goes on in their inner life that only they can see. So before I ask you questions about imagination and mind, would you like to share a little bit about yourself and your experiences, your journey in this life and whatnot?
Sure. Okay, thanks, Amin. Um, I started reading channel literature about 1975, I believe, and was absolutely fascinated with the picture that it presented. And so I always maintained my connection with channel literature. Um, I started my work career as a cultural historian at the National Museum of Man in Ottawa, and I ended it as a member of the Immigration Refugee Board. Um, deciding on human rights cases, on refugee claims.
Wow.
And after after retiring from the board, which was like an ivory tower, we couldn't write on anything of social concern. We couldn't be expressing opinions, replies or tweets or anything like that, if they even had them at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, Now I began to take a look at what was happening. So I became aware of 9/11. I became aware of depleted uranium, which is omnicidal, and began to write on it and opened up a discussion group on it, and then got very sick and couldn't run the discussion group. So I opened up a blog, which was called the 2012 Scenario, which then became the Golden Age of Gaia. Now, up till this point, I've been having spiritual experiences all the time. I think by age 30, I believe, I'd had 23 spiritual experiences, transformational moments, realizations that I was God, but I
So,
couldn't.
sorry to interrupt, but before we get to that, can I ask you a question of what sort of childhood you had? Were you raised in a religious family, spiritual family? Um, none of those?
None of the above. Um, no religious beliefs that I'm aware of, and we never talked about subjects like that. But at the same time, I was reading the Bible at a very young age. The religious books of other groups and nations and what have you. And I never thought anything about it. I never thought, oh, my parents are not religious or they are religious, or it never came up.
So I'm trying to get a sense of you as a being in this lifetime, how you're opening up to the world.
Religion wasn't really discussed in our household, but at the same time, I was allowed to develop in my own way. And as a matter of fact, that became an issue that resulted in the divorce between my parents, that my mother favored allowing me to develop in my own way, and my dad wanted me
Wow.
to follow a religious path. So, and my dad was very rough, uh, sometimes violent, very controlling. And that was a feature of my life. Later on, I wrote books on how to process early childhood trauma
Wow.
and things like that. So at one point, he shouted at me right, just a few inches from my face, and my personality just shattered in a million pieces.
Wow.
And it took me till age 58 to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. I was dissociated for all that time. And it showed up like not having confidence because I couldn't kind of feel the ground under my feet because my feet were shaking so much because I was
Wow.
concerned about being found out for not having this solid base of a personality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that also turned out to be a blessing in disguise, which I'll probably come to. So from an early age, I was having spiritual experiences, and I went into the growth movement in 1976, I guess, 75, 76 as well, and did 3-month resident fellowship, which opened up the experiential domain to me. I did the S training and had at least 2 experiences there. Went
Sorry,
into
is
sorry,
this a sorry to interrupt. Is this a program? This
the
fellowship
S
program?
training.
Yes.
The S training, yes. The S training is a 2 weekends, sit down presentations from a trainer at the front, and it's all designed to have you get who you are. They had a kind of an exercise right at the end of the training during which I got who I was, so to speak. But the S training has informed my writing. It's been very influential with me. I did enlightenment intensives, all kinds of things. But by now, I'm operating a blog,
Right.
and uh, I'm not talking about the spiritual experiences I've had in the last few years, because this other piece is much more important to say. And that's that on in December of 2010, I had a lucid dream in which I saw a woman about 200 yards from me, and we both, the minute we saw each other, we both ran towards each other and embraced. And immediately I woke up. I said, "Who was that?" And my friend knew a medium and arranged for me to have a reading with her. Turned out that was my twin flame. And she told me all about myself. And I just had to have another reading. And the second reading that I had, Linda Dillon, the medium, said, "You're going to like this, Steve. There's somebody here who wants to talk to you." And it was Archangel Michael. And there began 10 years of readings between myself and Michael, which are, to me, are you familiar with M's Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna?
I know I'm aware of Ramakrishna, and I have awareness of like Vedic thought and yoga and
Okay.
that
Yes.
sort of Atman and Parabrahman sort of
Yep.
notion.
Yep. So M kept notes of everything Ramakrishna said while he was there,
Mm.
and it became the Gospel of Ramakrishna. Well, for me, these 2,300 pages of readings with Michael are my Gospel of Archangel Michael, if you like.
Mhm.
Now, that all ended in 2020. Um, as a result of all the differences and political pressures that were happening during COVID, we just decided to give it a rest. But that meeting with Michael and everything that came out of it really defines my life for the next 10 years.
Mhm.
Um, Now, you were asking about experiences, so let me
Can
talk
I
about.
can I share something about you said Archangel Michael? I want to share with the viewers something about how I know you. I think
Yeah.
this is important to share. So I have this dream, unique dream where I hear this word in it. And Steve, I'm searching random websites online, and I think I find your blog or something where you were explaining from the beginning of creation to like the highest levels. You were I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something where I'd even appreciate you if you talk about it, where you were on a drive or something and you suddenly realized this huge thing,
Oh,
right?
oh,
So
oh,
do you
oh.
understand what I'm saying? So I came across that, and I
Yeah,
had this dream, right? So I had this unique dream, heard this unique word, and I'm not kidding, Steve. The moment I was on that website, I just had this feeling. Tell this person, you had your email there. Send this person, tell him about your experience, this unique experience I had,
sure.
right?
All
And
right.
you responded back for the first time ever. I heard the sentence star seed, right? So
Hmm.
you're the person in this life who made me aware of that idea, that concept, right?
Wow.
And then
Yes.
you did something so unique that, like, it was very profound. You sent me a message and you were like, I have an Archangel Michael channeling about your dream. If you don't respond in 10 minutes, I'll delete it. Right? You said
Really?
yeah, and it was very like the moment the message came, I was like, yes, right? And you
Yeah.
sent me that channeling, and I just want to tell you, Steve, what happened to me
Sure.
after that. I think it'd
Hmm.
be interesting for you. After that channeling and all of this, a year, maybe a year or 2 years after, I go to the UK and I get this sense, this name comes to me, Mr. Within. And then this
Hmm.
sort of intuitive command that 10,000 talks for the betterment of mankind, right?
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
start in
Hmm.
2014.
Hmm.
Listen, I started in 2014 with my iPhone 3, fake Apple headphones, and this cup of tea every day. I would just go sit down, press the record button, and all the words and content was just there, right? It was just,
Wow.
I just felt I had to do it, right? And
Mm.
I wanted to
Hmm.
say what you sent to me was a catalyst for that.
Oh, wow. How
That's
about
why I
that?
have this is probably one of the most important interviews I really wanted in this lifetime.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't hear the word that you heard. What was the word?
The word was Lida, right?
Lida.
Lida.
Right, you told me about that.
And then you told me in the Archangel channeling, um, that lady was saying, Archangel Michael was saying that it means pilot, right?
Pilot.
It
Right.
means
Oh,
pilot of the and in the channeling it was like from the Andromedan sector. You're from the Andromedan sector and all this. And at the
yeah.
time, I just went on my bed, put on headphones, and
Yeah.
listened to that channeling,
Yeah.
right? And it was very important for me. It was one of those synchronicities where,
Wow. Isn't that interesting?
yeah.
You now, how are you interpreting the word pilot?
So you
How
want,
how,
I
how are
will
you?
tell you what happened. So after that, it was a mystery. It became one of my biggest mysteries. I'm like, what does this word mean? I mean, that was a clue,
Yeah.
that channeling.
Yeah.
But years later in the lectures, I realized what it was. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not a physical pilot. I call it the pilot of consciousness. So as if
Yeah.
our attention is piloting through this manifestation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway,
Close.
that it reverberate, it echoed into different meanings, right? But it was
Yes.
very profound, right?
Can
And
can I give you
of
one
course,
inter?
of course.
Because I was a pilot too in Atlantis, and what it was oh, we don't really, well, we probably do have the position today. It's a person who meets ambassadors from other civilizations and then make sure that they get entrance to the people that they have come here intending to see, right? So it's
Uh,
a it's a liaison position. It's a meet and greet. It's interpreting the civilization to the other person, right?
mhm, mhm.
And you have access to all these um, people.
You are spot on because in these lectures, I have this ridiculous passion to talk about advanced civilizations. Okay.
Yeah,
Which
that
is
fits.
ridiculous. And you just said civilization, it's definitely.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
Steve, can I ask you something, right?
Yes.
And especially
Right.
for many people who, I mean, even myself, right? My experiences, so the way I would say it, in front of my eyes, I treat myself as a physical being.
Yeah.
Behind my eyes, I used to treat myself as a sort of thought entity, but then I realized I'm an unknown watcher of my mind and body moving, right?
Yeah.
Now, in regards to, and for example, so I forgot to mention this. In the message that you sent, the idea was, I think it was in it, you said universal self, or the lady was saying in the thing that it's your universal self that's giving you that word or
Yes.
whatnot. So,
Yes.
Steve, my question would be, before I ask you about those next level experiences you've had,
Mhm.
how would you explain what is going on potentially celestially? right? That means
You mean right now?
I mean, from what sort of context is it appropriate to like think about the extraterrestrial idea? Do you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to open this up
There's
with you.
much bigger things happening than the extraterrestrial.
So,
Much bigger things happening than that. Um, would you be surprised if I told you that everyone here
mhm,
right now is angelic? Everyone on the planet is an angel.
mhm,
And yes, the angels do like to live on different dimensions and different planets, and they do. They're all over the place. I have a good friend across town who is a seraph. Um, I had a woman in the discussion group who was an
right.
Elohim, etc. And they are here. Everyone being an angel is here because this ascension is absolutely new, is opening up a new region of space, is going to leave the human race interdimensional,
Mhm.
right? In other words, if you died tomorrow, you go to the astral plane. Well, no, you probably go to a much higher plane than that. But let's pretend that you go to the astral plane. You would not be able to visit the mental plane, which is the next plane up, the fifth dimension. You would not be able to visit it, right?
Mhm.
But in the new uh, species that the Divine Mother is creating, we will now be able to visit every dimension. This is
So
huge.
can I just say something about that? When you
Yeah.
say, and everybody here is an angel, the,
Yes.
the way I hear that is that I remember the idea, the concept of the angel was a being that cannot, is only listening to the divine will. Do you know what I'm saying?
Um,
Like a sort
uh,
of a divine, as if what I'm the question I'm trying to get to is that when you say we're all angels, is it a reality of God? Are we is it God's life that do you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying
no,
we are
I don't
angels. Do
understand.
you mean okay, let me see if I can
I
rephrase it.
think I think the answer to your question is that the higher angelic self is in constant contact with God. Yes, that would be true,
Oh,
but
okay.
but not the human form, because when we incarnate, we agree to give up large swatches of memory, all our angelic capabilities.
So let me ask you this. Let me just go back a bit. Can you tell me how you see yourself just before the what's going on in the world? I'll bring it back to the self. So when you look at yourself, are you seeing multiple dimensions? Is all of it one? Like some people see non-duality, for example, or is it that there is a parallel self? For example, that dream I had, I saw, believe it or not, a type of imprisoned self for just a snapshot in the dream. 1 second, I saw this being, and its hands were on like this. What do you call it? This chair, as if the hands were locked onto a chair, right? But
Right?
it didn't appear. This is in the dream, of course, and it didn't
Yeah.
appear human to me. And after, like, this was years after all the stuff with the stuff you sent me, I got a feeling that am I somewhere else, like entrapped, and I'm
Right.
experiencing myself here as if this is the I don't want to say this is the jail, but but like do you know what I'm saying? Like I
Yep.
had this sense
Gilded
like,
cage.
do you have any insight on this or a view on this you can share?
Which
In
specifically
regards to
what?
parallel selves. Yeah, yeah, yeah. In regards
Oh,
to
parallel selves.
or and
Sure.
how
Oh,
you
yeah.
see
No,
yourself. How you
I,
see
I,
yourself and parallel selves.
a number of times I've had something merge with me. Interestingly, Susie Ward. Are you familiar with Susie Ward and Matthew's
Uh
messages?
Not really, no.
No? Okay. Well, Susie wrote me out of the blue and said, no, 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 you didn't have a soul merge. I didn't even ask her. And, but I had something merge on two occasions. Um, And on one occasion when it merged, I went into a creative tornado. I think I wrote 6 books in the next 3 months or something, or edited 6 books. I think that was some soul capability that I merged with. But let's see. I'm trying to think of how
Or
to respond.
I'm trying to think. Okay, maybe I could ask something else. The first time you realized you weren't Steve, and when you became fully
Yes,
convinced that you
yes,
were
yes,
something else, how did that
yes.
happen?
Well, that happened in 1977. It happened as a result of a out of body experience, a lucid dream in which I was on the other side. I woke up in the dream on the other side, and some people were treating a friend of mine poorly. And I was saying, stop, stop. And I was crying my eyes out. Of course, they couldn't hear me, right?
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, I started to fall backwards. If you can't take life on a certain level on the other side, you have to go back to the level below it, right? And
Oh,
the level below any level, if you're out of your body, is the body, right?
okay.
With me so far?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so I'm falling backwards through space. I don't know where I'm going, although I do know what's happening because I've been studying all these things for some time. And I suddenly found myself entering some kind of tube. And I'm knocking on the side of it and I'm saying, what in hell's name is this? Right. And I slither back in this tube and I'm standing inside this tube and I realize this is my body. Oh my God, I
Wow.
am not my body.
Wait, does that mean in another dimension it appeared as a capsule or as something like that, as a tube?
No, it didn't appear. I felt it. It
Oh, okay.
the consistency of the body. Are you familiar with lacrosse?
Yeah, the sport.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
You know how if you take a lacrosse ball and you throw it in the concrete, it goes thwack and as a
yeah,
dead cat bounce, and that's it,
yeah, yeah.
right? It doesn't bounce much. Well, uh, this this body that I was in was like had the consistency of a lacrosse ball. It was very heavy, rubbery substance. Does not um, conduct emotions very well. It's too thick and dense, right? Anyways, I was looking out through these eyes, and suddenly my consciousness went through my body, and I was now unconscious of my spirit. I was now looking out through the body, and I was Steve again, right?
Okay.
But I now knew that I was not the body. My fear of death evaporated just like that. Boom, I'm not the body. Well, what's to be afraid of? Okay.
Wow. Yeah,
So that's how I know I'm not Steve.
that's incredible. So just the awareness that you're not the
Yes.
body gets rid of the fear of the body.
Oh yeah, instant. I used to compare it to hearing something rustle in the grass outside my ground floor apartment, and I open the glass doors and I go out. Something is stirring in the grass, and I'm saying, "Oh my God, I'm going to get bit by some ravenous raccoon or something." And it comes closer and closer and closer. And comes out of the grass. Oh, it's Kitty, right? My fear just goes like that. Yeah, I'm not afraid anymore, right? It's Kitty.
That's a good metaphor.
And that's exactly how it was with death. It's like, oh, what am I afraid of death for? I just step out of this body, you know?
Mhm.
So there you go on that. Back to the purpose of life.
I sure, but I remember you said that there were three major experiences,
Yes, this is
and
the first.
do you think I'm really fascinated for your explanation of the one you were in the car.
That's this one.
Oh, that's this one? Okay.
Yeah.
So go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. I at the time I was in a PhD program in sociology at UBC, and I wanted to counsel people, and so I had been doing voluntary counseling with people. It didn't cost any money, and I was following problem solving therapy, and I would sell them this problem solution, and they would look at me as if I was nuts and pause for a minute and then get on with their story, right? And it was like, oh, you know how hard it is to come up with a solution. And I keep doing this and nobody was buying. And finally I stopped and I said, they want to tell me their story. They want me to listen. So I would listen to people, right? And listen and listen and listen. And finally they would have an aha. Finally they would see something, right? That they hadn't seen,
Yeah.
because they were able to get all their pieces on the table, right? Anyways, that's background to this experience,
Right.
because I'm driving in my car to work as a business writer. And uh, I suddenly had this amazing idea. And I said to the universe, if people's early lives are a puzzle, and then when they see the answer, when they see the picture of their lives, they have an aha. It's like, whoa, boy, they get a realization. Is it possible that life itself is a puzzle? And if it is a puzzle, then what is the picture that life is, right? That's what I said to the universe. Turning the corner in my car, Oak and Park Drive. And I've gone about 100 feet, and suddenly everything goes black. And I forget that I'm behind the wheel of a car. I forget all about the car. And I'm looking at this tableau, at this spiritual movie, or however you want to characterize it. And I'm looking at a large golden sun, and I'm in bliss, right? And bliss is the great comforter. Bliss brings all things to remembrance. Immediately, I know that this is God the Father, right? This big golden sun. And out from it comes a little golden star and shoots off into space. And I say, that's God the child. That's the Son of God, right? And I say to myself, where did it go? And immediately I find I can go where it went, right? And I'm looking at this gray cloud, a dim cloud. Just it's not that you can't see it, but it's a little dimmer than whatever. And I instinctively know that this is God the Mother, Shakti. What other names are there for her? Kali, energy. Prakriti, procreatrix.
So, yeah.
She has 1,000 names. And this is the Divine Mother. And the small golden star has lost its brilliance, and it's just a little circle, and it's going down through a coil. And I instinctively know those are lifetimes in matter, right?
Sorry, they're what? They're what?
Lifetimes
Mhm.
in matter.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Matter, mater, mother, right? This is the school of experience, right? This is where we learn who we are, right? So I'm watching this, my golden star, now it's only a circle, going down through these coils. If you looked up through the coils, head on, look up through, it would look like a nautilus, right? Nautilus shell.
Hmm.
You'd see lifetime after lifetime after lifetime in a coil. And it's in a coil because of the law of karma. We keep coming back to the same unlearned lessons again and again, and this makes it a coil, right?
Yeah.
It's an arc from God to God, but it's also a coil at this point. Anyways, I see that the little golden star suddenly has an enlightenment experience. There's this flash, right? And this is the first enlightenment experience that I see. And with that, it leaves the dim cloud of the mother, races back to the father and disappears. And I see that as a second enlightenment experience. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this whole thing and I'm saying, oh my God, wow, what is this all about? From God to God, I got it, but what is it all about? And I hear this sentence in my mind: the purpose of life is enlightenment, right?
Hmm.
That's what I hear. And it all disappears. And I'm behind the wheel of the car
And
again.
how, was it time wise? Did you feel it was it a normal, was it a second, the whole experience, or did it feel like an eternity?
The whole experience took about 8 seconds. Now it um, I don't know how I come to that figure, but that figure keeps coming to mind. So 8 seconds. And I know that part of Vancouver like the back of my hands. I mean, the number of times I've walked that street as a kid, right, is legion. And so I know it very well. I mean, I have a real feel for it. So I looked from side to side to see how far I'd gone, and I hadn't gone an inch. So I was eight
Wow.
seconds out of time. Now, what else can I tell you?
Uh,
I went to the,
Sorry, if it was 8 seconds out of time, but in your inner realms, in your real experience, it was also 8 seconds, the whole thing.
yes,
It
the
felt like,
whole thing
oh, I see.
took about 8 seconds, although it felt, uh, I mean, I had ample time in that 8 seconds to see everything I needed to see and all the rest of it. But that's what it felt like in terms of our time. But when I came out and looked around to see, I had to have traveled some distance in 8 seconds. I know that area, and I there's a kind of a hedge, and I was just about at the edge of the hedge. And when I came out of my experience, I was still just about the edge of the hedge. So you know,
So Steve, I can let me share an experience I had
yeah.
to it's kind of relatable. So this was before 2014. That was a very important year for me. But before that, there was this place in Toronto called York University.
Oh gosh, yes, I
You
know it
know,
very well.
yeah, there's a fountain there. And so I was, at the time, a lot of problems, don't know how to solve them, feel stuck. So I go and sit by this fountain. And you know how
Hmm.
people sometimes put the tips of their fingers together? Like you connect them and you sit down. Do you know what
Yes, 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 I
so I
do. Yeah.
just, for some reason, I had my fingers connected and I'm just looking at this fountain. And Steve, this was huge for me. I'll tell you the experience. For the first time in my life, I noticed my thoughts or my inner realm is moving faster than I normally think. Do you see what I'm saying? I started
Sure.
to notice. So how it would happen was I was sitting there just thinking about my problems. Every time I would exhale, I was like, what is this? Like sentence, sentence, sentence. It was like sentences were pouring in my mind. And so I'm
Hmm.
there suddenly catching on to like, yo, this isn't me. I don't think at
Hmm.
this speed. Like I don't think this fast. Do you know?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and in that I felt maybe it was uh I don't know. To me, it felt short, but I realized it'd been like a long time had passed. Okay.
Hmm.
And in the exhales, this thing was talking to me about channeling space. And at the
Hmm.
end of it, it tells me there's a book on your shelf you haven't opened. Okay. And
Hmm.
it tells me go to page 85. So I hear the concept
Wow.
channeling space in my mind. I go and open this book. I had never opened it. Page 85, title channeling space. Do you understand? I get goosebumps
Wow.
and I start reading it. This is again before the
Hmm.
lectures. And then it starts for me. So I remember I go outside and I'm raking leaves on a sunny day. Okay. And
Hmm.
suddenly I'm hearing the most beautiful poetry. And in like, imagine sweaty in a sunny day and tears are on my face because I'm hearing sentences I've never heard. It was saying like you're from the temple of the stars or something, and my mind had never put those words together or something like that.
Yep. Yep.
So after that experience, I would wake up in the mornings, put my laptop on a chair in front of me, and just sleepy, like from the morning, start
Hmm.
automatically speaking.
Mhm.
Many
Yep.
people of my channel, viewers of my channel, don't know this, but that's how it actually started. And I was, because I was sleepy, I didn't care what I said. You understand what I'm saying? So I was just
Mhm.
there, and the experience after a while was that I was beside myself. I don't know how to tell you this, but it was like all the words I was saying, I was seeing myself say it. You know, there was like a stillness in the
Mhm.
background where I could hear myself communicate. So, and that would allow me to have the next thought. That's something like that. Do you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
So
Yep. Yep.
anyways, that's I
Not
felt like
not
sharing
unfamiliar.
time difference there.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I have heard them put words in my mouth at times. The first time I heard this was when I was walking along Granville Street, Vancouver, and I was feeling angry. And I said, geez, I better get home before I, do something and make some people really, really angry themselves. And suddenly I heard, make an energy bubble.
Wow.
And I don't know anything about an energy bubble, right? I would never say that to myself. I made an energy bubble and it worked and I went home. But later I asked Michael, I said, who was that who said make an energy bubble? And he said, oh, it was Saint Germain. He loves walking down Granville Street with you. So that was the first time, I actually caught somebody ad libbing, so to speak. Now, I can more or less feel the difference.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So,
I know they put words in people's mouths because I caught Michael doing it once to another person. Very funny.
you mean somebody comes and talks to you, and you know it's like Archangel Michael talking to you through them, something like
No, no, he put words in the mouth of, well, maybe just briefly, I'll tell you the story. It's absolutely funny as heck.
that.
I made an application for the apartment that I'm in right now, which is the apartment of my dreams, right? And but I had to get past the last manager. Excuse me a sec. I had to get past the last manager. Well, we had had a disagreement, and frankly, she was a crook and ran a scheme there where when you moved out, I won't go into it, but cost me $500. But uh, nonetheless, I didn't think I was going to get past the manager in the last apartment. They were looking for the people here. We're looking for a review from them, and I thought, oh, the jig is up, right? And they phoned the manager, and they got the husband. My rental, my rental agent, my manager, whatever it is,
Mhm.
phoned me and said, and was telling me about this. And she said, well, I phoned them and got the husband. And I said to the husband, can I speak to your wife? And he said, she's sick. And I said, well, do you think I could leave my phone number and you could have her phone me tomorrow? And he said, F-O, right? F-O. And
Wow.
well, he said the words and he slammed the phone down, right? And so I'm talking to the rental agent here, right? So I said, well, what more can I say, right? And she said, yes, your application's been approved. And later I went to Michael. I said, what did you do? And he said, well, he was very violent, very, he's that way inclined. I just helped him along a bit. So I know that they put words in people's mouths
Mhm.
and what
Yeah.
have you. So, anyways,
You know something.
that's my funniest Michael story.
Steve, I want to say something that really fascinates me. You know, I
Yeah.
remember reading about Socrates, and I don't know if you're familiar with Socrates' story, right? So
Yep,
he
I
goes to
am.
court, and then there's something where he says his whole life there was an inner oracle telling him, okay, go here.
Oh,
Okay,
absolute,
don't go here.
absolute,
What
absolute.
you're saying, it feels to me, it's like the ancient logos, right? And to you, it's appearing as or it is Archangel Michael, right? But
Yes.
that presence, this is one of my also, big thoughts, big questions. is it physical at all here? You
Is
know,
it physical at all?
is
What
it,
do you mean?
sorry, is it, I'm trying to say, is the intelligence that's moving here
Yeah.
in of the space, or is it actually specific entities here?
And
That comes.
is it specific entities here? Do you
I,
mean
I'm
walking
asking you.
around the earth?
Okay, okay, no, no, no. Let me. Sorry,
Is that what you mean?
No, no. I'm saying, are there
I can.
like tons of creatures here, or is all of it like an inconceivable being? Do you see what I'm saying? Where I'm going? I'm trying to get your
Not
sense of.
quite.
Okay, okay.
Not
Maybe I'll move
quite.
on from this then. Um. Okay, okay. After that experience with the car, let's go there.
Yeah. Okay.
Were you said there were other profound experiences? I really want
Oh
to
yes. Oh
get
yes.
those.
Yes. But let me just add around the experience in the car that the purpose of life is enlightenment, right? That's what I got from that. And so you might say, well, why enlightenment? I mean, why is it not having a great physique or being able to run a mile in a minute or what have you? Uh,
Mm.
and the reason why it's enlightenment is that, uh, and this comes from 10 years of studying the writings of classical Enlightenment sages.
Mhm.
Um, God is everything, right? God is everything. And if you can think of being everything, it's not easy to think of how you might know yourself, how you might meet yourself, right? You're God, you're everything. Who knows? It might be lonely. But God wanted to meet itself. And so it created a game, a Leela. And in this game, it took fragments of itself, invented took a part of itself that invented a world of matter, meter, mother,
Right.
and so created a body and put this spark in the middle and said, okay, now go find out who you are. And when you find out who you are, God meets God, right? I looked from God, from me to thee, and said, O thou I, by Zid Abistun, right? O thou I. And that's what happens. Oh, thou I. God realizes God. God meets God. That's the reason everything around us was created so that God could have an experience of God. Isn't
Wow.
that amazing?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
me tell
No,
you
I
why I'm
agree.
saying wow. Because
Mm-hmm.
in one of my lectures, I said I talked about something that I think you're the only person who's I said that what if I gave a lecture called God is alone rather than God alone is. And I was fathoming that imagine from the beginning there's an uncaused eternal being, and this eternal all-powerful being is alone. So it realizes there can be no other being like it. So it has such a compassion that it's like, I will create beings that can experience that, even though I can't. Do you know? Not that God can't. God, it's not
Oh, no, no, no.
divisible.
No,
You see
you're
what I'm
right.
saying?
God experiences it through us.
And then through that view, I had a completely different understanding of God's love, right? Because we have this view that God's life doesn't have a sacrifice in it, right? Like, and I think the sacrifice is the acceptance that I'm alone, I alone am, and then the others can have fun and figure out experience, let's say, co-creative experiences or meet God, as you say, or as Thomas Aquinas says, let God be God in you, or something in those lines, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Letting God be God in you is a way of purifying and perfecting yourself in order to have that final meeting.
Right, right.
Yes. The missing piece in all our discussions, the joker in the deck, the elephant on the table, is the nature of love. If anyone experiences higher dimensional love, it will change their view of everything. It will alter. And is that the second experience? Yes, there's a preamble to the second experience. When one experiences the love that exists on the higher dimensions, when I did, I found myself saying, "Oh, is this what they're talking about? Oh my God. Wow." That definitely is the discovery of all time, never mind one's lifetime,
Mhm.
the nature of the love that exists in the higher dimensions. So maybe I should then tell you about the second
For
experience.
sure, for sure.
All right. Because it's what's called a heart opening. And it is a fourth chakra experience. Um, the Hindus call it spiritual awakening. Buddhists call it stream entering. It's the first enlightenment. And the second enlightenment is here at the sixth chakra.
Mhm.
And the third enlightenment is at the seventh chakra, but we're still in the third dimension. We're not out of the third dimension yet. That comes when the energy doubles back on the heart and we have another heart opening. Only this one is much bigger than the fourth chakra one and is permanent and is ascension into the fifth dimension or higher.
So when you say, may I ask something?
Yeah.
I went to, I'll share something. I went to Rishikesh, India for two
Yeah.
months. I stayed in an ashram. There
Mm-hmm.
was a man there who had a very unique presence, and his eyes were blissed out. I don't know if you know this, but sometimes you can tell if somebody's blissed out, just from
Sure.
his eyes, right?
Yeah. Sure.
And
I
then,
know that.
so this guy, there was this cafeteria, just pure vegetarian food. And I just feel like I go up to this guy, sit at the table, and I'm like, can I ask a question? If every lifetime we're looking like there's beings incarnating and enlightening, is enlightenment, is the ascension infinite? Like
Is what infinite? Is
is
what
the
in?
ascension, or
Oh,
the
yes.
enlightenment? So I was saying, like, if some people see this world as a school, right? My
Mm.
view is a bit different. I'll share it later, but
Mhm.
I see it more as like we're guests of of like a host that hasn't arrived yet to the party. That's how I see it. But those people who see it as a school, my question is it infinite graduation? That means do you know what I'm saying there?
Mm-hmm.
Does the enlightenment ascension ever stop, or is it just forever ascending, 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 ascending?
Um, so I'd have to give my understanding from Michael and the Divine Mother.
Sure.
Uh, and by the way, that understanding has changed significantly since hearing from them because I didn't see things the way they explained them later. But and what they explained was uh, we don't. It's not a question of having to earn our way back to the father, mother, God. Like the prodigal child kind of story, or the thought behind that we have to somehow earn our way back. We have to be good, and we have to do good things, and all that. Um, it back, or home is available to us, and especially available to the people here right now because they're angels and they partake of the source energy when they're not in the body, unless they choose to be star seeds on some planet. They could do that too.
Mm.
Um, I was a star seed on Arcturus. I'm pausing because I'm not sharing all information until we're beyond the uh,
Consciousness shift, like a growth
no,
consciousness.
the here I go, eh? What's the name of that bird? Mockingbird. Until we're beyond the Mockingbird press, which ridicules people for things they say, I'm not sharing everything. I'm holding some back. But later on, it'll be quite permissible to share everything. Now, having said that, I forgot why I'm saying that.
The question was in regards to infinity, right? So in my
Yes.
experience, I noticed that in front of my eyes, like things act in accordance to physical law, right? That means like, there's gravity. But how is it that I can close my eyes and imagine a flying car? Why doesn't that car suddenly have gravity act upon it? So
Why doesn't have gravity?
you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? I'm saying
Yeah, I
if
do.
I
Yeah.
visualize, right. So if I visualize the car, why isn't in my imagination the car falling down because of gravity? Right.
Mhm.
So I had this sense that, okay, in front of my eyes, I'm a limited being, but maybe our minds have some limitlessness quality to them. Right. And
Definitely.
then
Sure. Of
I
course.
came across infinity and this idea, this might sound bizarre, but should infinity be renounced?
Renounced. Is
Yeah.
that what you said? Why?
Yeah.
Why renounced? Why renounced?
Because it doesn't end. It's like you're on a treadmill that never, for example, you're on a treadmill that never stops and you're waiting to get to a destination. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, I do. That question will be answered as soon as you experience higher dimensional love.
ah,
What you'll find at that time, once you experience that, is that it doesn't matter how long it takes, or it just doesn't matter because
right.
this love is so satisfying, and it goes on forever, and it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. So once you're in that experience of that love, the question you have will disappear.
You're right. So you're so you're saying because right now, like me, I'm limited. I'm trying. It doesn't make infinity may not make sense to this limited perspective. But if I was limitless, then you wouldn't have a problem with it, right? It would be as natural as like this is being natural. Is that what you mean?
Uh, well, no, I think what I'm saying is the very question that you have is framed, um, as it would be with 99.9% of the population, is framed outside the knowledge of the love that exists on the higher realms. If you were right now on the fifth dimension or the seventh or the ninth or the 12th or past that, because I've been in all those spaces, you would experience either love or bliss or ecstasy or exaltation or any of those spaces, uh, and the question would the air would go out of the bag. The question would go, and you'd say, wow, this is wonderful. This is what I always wanted. This is what everything I've ever done has been aimed at reaching and having love. My God, love, bliss, even better.
Right, right.
Ecstasy, wonderful. You
You
know,
know, I don't know if I've experienced that level, like the 12th dimension of love, but once I'll tell you, I had, a friend of mine, there was a, we were taking, like, it was a psychedelic experience
yeah,
I was
yeah.
going through. I don't know what happened in that moment. Like at the corner of my home, my brother was there too. Like imagine diagonally, like on the corner, like like close to the ceiling of the room, I start see like this circular opening, and I just start crying, like not crying like with my nostrils being moist and all that. It's just with the eyes, just tears
Mm-hmm.
from the eyes. And my brother turns around and says, like, "What's going on?" And I just tell him there is a kindness. It wasn't for me like it was to me there was a kindness I saw beyond here, not even
Mm-hmm.
visual or image, but that kindness was so
Palpable.
otherworldly
Mm-hmm.
kindness that it
Mm-hmm.
was just, it's, I would say that's one of those moments that I was very close. I felt to a sort of divine love.
Mm-hmm. Very good. You realize you have to ask for things like a heart opening. You have to ask for them. They won't just give you one out of the blue.
Yeah,
You have to be, they have to not be violating your free will.
yes,
Anyway,
yes.
sorry, I interrupted you.
No, 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 no. What you're saying, I have been at nights. I'm a person who sometimes when I feel impure, I pray. Or
Mm-hmm.
at times I feel called towards it, I pray.
Yeah.
Um, I had this feeling, uh, this prayer that God unseal my Almighty One, unseal my heart. There was a
Mm-hmm.
time
Very
I've
good.
actually felt my heart was sealed, my
It
call
is.
was
It
different.
is.
Yeah, yeah, but
Everybody's heart is sealed.
right. But this was as if I was oblivious to it and suddenly noticed, and that was the prayer for a long time. But the way I feel, at least I felt my heart opened, unsealed, was when I realized I don't know, and I became
Mm-hmm.
humble. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was. But anyways, how's this coming across to you? Is it relatable?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure I was in the same place um, before the heart opening. I did not know what love was. I went through 65 years of my life, with maybe 10 relationships, not knowing what love was. I mean, I was a good boy in these relationships. That's how I related. I would serve the woman just as I served my mother in this awful
Beautiful.
early family I grew up in. Um, and that's what I did. It's like, oh, I'll make myself useful, and then they'll love me or something. But not knowing what love was. And then with the heart opening, it's like, oh my God. Oh,
I
look.
actually, I actually interrupted you, I think, in the middle of your explanation of the second
Well,
experience.
let me tell you what happened in
Okay.
this second experience. I was I It was the 13th of March 2015, and I had a reading booked with Archangel Michael at 10 o'clock, and it was about 7 o'clock. And by the way, all these experiences are written down. Thank God. I was sitting at my desk. I was in my bathrobe, and it was 7 o'clock, and I probably was writing something. And suddenly, some energy started entering into me through my foot. And I said, well, what the heck is this? Because it can't be the Kundalini, because that would start in my
Root chakra.
root chakra. Yeah. And it went up my foot. And at first I was alarmed. And then I said, wait a minute. I'm a servant of the mother. I don't have anything to worry about. And, the thought I had was the Moses and the Ten Commandments, when the green energy was coming out of the sky and going up, the Egyptians, and they were dropping dead. I don't know if you remember that scene, or if you even saw the movie, but
I can imagine.
anyways,
I can imagine.
yeah. And so I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. But no, I'm a servant of the mother. If anything happens, it's the mother that's doing it. And it reached my fourth chakra. And by the way, everything that follows, I did not put together. I mean, a year later, I said to Michael, he said, oh, you've already had a fourth chakra experience. I said, when was that? And he said, the heart opening. I didn't put the two and two together. But anyway, so when the Kundalini reached the fourth chakra, there was this explosion, right? It's like a 15-inch gun on a ship just blew a shell out of the. It was a huge explosion, and immediately I felt myself in this tsunami of love. This river of love just swept through me, and it's not like water. It doesn't have mass. It didn't bowl me over or anything like that. It swept through me and took every concern, every worry, every fear that I had, just took it right away. And I was just pure love at that moment. And uh, isn't that interesting? I should be able to remember what
So,
happened next better, but I notice I'm not remembering.
so may I
So
ask?
yeah,
Please continue.
go ahead.
Please.
No, go ahead.
So the energy went from your foot, went up the chakras, and then did it completely like encompass your
No,
whole body?
no. But I have had an experience of that you're talking about,
Mhm.
of the Kundalini going up the whole of my body and going in the seventh chakra. But they what Michael and the mother do is they, what's the word I'm looking for? Truncate. They truncate my experiences. So, for instance, in the Brahmayana experience, where the river of gold went up here, and then in my crown chakra, there's no bliss. Well, bliss is what lifts you up to a level where you have realizations, right? So without bliss, it was like watching a movie. It's like, oh, wow, look at this. Hey, wow, this is super. And Michael said, I asked him, I said, that was Brahmayana. He said, oh, yeah. And I said, how come I didn't feel any bliss? And he said, oh, no, we want your feet to be firmly on the ground. So they do it. They truncate,
Yes.
they tone down, moderate the experiences of a light worker.
In my lectures, this story came to my mind and I shared it. The story was that there's this one guy, you know how Mount Olympus, where the gods were all like hanging out, like the idea of heaven. So in the story,
Yeah.
I was saying this hilarious, like I was saying this hilarious version of it, where this one guy, he goes after enlightenment. He wants to reach the highest heaven. He climbs the mountain, gets up there, and pokes his head up the clouds and sees all the gods are having like a cocktail party or something, right? And then he goes and says, I made it. Right. And then all the gods look at him and they say, you decided to go down there. What are you doing here? Do you know? And that was the idea.
Interesting. Interesting.
That they were like, you made it to heaven, but you chose to go there. What
Yeah, right. You
you
chose to
you know
leave.
what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You chose to go do something there. Yeah.
Very funny. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. That energetic experience led to what sort of perspective afterwards?
Oh, perspective. I now felt love. My heart was open. It didn't stay
Yeah.
open to the same extent it was in that experience, but I remained able to tap into that higher dimensional love until about September 28th, from March 13th all the way around to September 28th. And then it became bliss for 3 months. And so every day, I'd breathe it up from my heart and be in bliss for several hours, and then it would go for that day, and that would be how it would go. So I spent nearly a year in either higher dimensional love or bliss. Previously, I'd have brief experiences, like uh, I had a partner who kept interrupting my experiences, so they were very brief. Some of them. Uh, but they might be minutes, they might be half an hour. Probably half an hour would be about the limit. That's how long I would experience this love, and it wasn't long enough to get to know it, so to speak.
Right,
But
right.
this year was long enough
There,
to get to know it.
Steve, maybe you could explain something to me. I have um a bit of a different view on on love. So let me
Yeah.
share this. Maybe you can see if there's flaws to it and help me out. So I after giving these talks, I had a community, Discord community, different people would come. And then I noticed there would be people who would see everything as love, a non-dualistic love. Okay,
Sure.
to a
Yeah.
point where everything I would ask them, they would just say it's that, right? Everything had
Yeah.
become that. And then a part of me had this feeling that it's dehumanizing, that sometimes that it could be dehumanizing that divine experience. So what I mean is that from 2014 and 16, I lived with an intuitive authorization all the time. My intuition was authorizing, just like Socrates' experience. And I feel the non-dualistic supreme love of the divine makes people dehumanize and they forget why they're human. And then it's as if a bunch of human beings on a planet that should be doing human stuff, but they're all experiencing as if they're not human. And I would say, yo, and the idea of, I keep saying we have to build an advanced civilization in the lectures, right? And they would say, no, it's already there. Everything is already there. It's pure love. And I'll be like, if it's already there, then why do we need to exist at all? Why do we need to be human at all if everything is just one supreme state, right? So that was the view I had, that sometimes maybe spirituality and love can dehumanize, and then it becomes escapism. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Sorry, go on.
It's not, the thing for me is, it's not, the non-dual perspective is not helpful in this particular moment. We are tasked, the light workers are tasked with building Nova Earth, with taking the wreck that the Illuminati have left us with. You know, I was over on a site called geoengineering.com or geoengineeringwatch.com, and the number of weather events that are happening off the coast of the United States or on the United States, you know, the Illuminati is battering them with weather control weapons. And yes, the purpose of life is to know ourselves. And yes, that's a non-dual event. And
Mhm.
that's what we're all heading towards. But at this particular point in time, light workers on Earth have been tasked with rebuilding this planet. And non-dualism takes our attention away from that.
Right, right.
Um, so that's my stand on non-dualism. Now, look, if we're angels, then all of us are non-dual. All of us.
Mhm.
I interviewed Michael on this once, and I remember saying to him, "Okay, so angels are transcendental," and he said, "Well, it's more than that, more than that, you know, like more than that." Wow.
Yeah.
And he said, and he explained, you know, how angels see the world, and he,
Is that something you'd like to share?
yeah, sure, hmm, universes, dimensions, by the way, are connected to the planet. You know, planet Earth has dimensions around it,
Mm.
but the dimensions around planet Earth may not be the same as the dimensions around Andromeda. Matthew Ward goes and designs astral worlds for people. I mean, the dimensions are designed. Um,
This thing you say, I remember reading that in one of the lokas, the upper worlds in Vedanta, the space between Earth and the sun is filled with celestial beings. I remember I heard something like this in the Vedic literature.
filled was like, well, I don't know what filled means. So
As if you're saying, as if there's concentric, like an onion, there's like more layers around the Earth.
dimensions.
Right, right.
Yes,
There's more dimensions around
yes.
the Earth that are not physical, right? As if the
Oh, well, depends what you mean by physical. I mean,
uh,
everything, all dimensions are material. You know, we think that the third dimension is material and the fifth dimension is not. No, they're all material. We exist as beings who, you know, have some constituency of some sort. So that's my view, that they're all, the 12 dimensions are material.
mhm.
Well, I was once given this way of seeing it, but then the people, the Arcturians who said it, refused to allow me to air it because they said, look, it's taking people too far down the rabbit hole, so to speak. But they talked about being able to walk down a corridor, and Michael has talked about it as walking down a hall with doors. Um, and the way the Arcturian said is, they come upon a bubble and they look into it, and this bubble is Earth, you know, in the fifth dimension, and they say, well, I think I'd like to spend some time down there. So away they go down into Earth on the fifth dimension, assuming a body, right?
Mhm.
And they were in the, well, I was going to say they were in the transcendental, but let me go a little further with that. When I said to Mike, oh yeah, you're in the transcendental, he said, well, not quite. He said, um, The transcendental is like the spaces between things. He said, we are the spaces within the spaces.
Wow, that's
And I didn't quite get that.
so spaces
And
within spaces means the way that makes sense to me is that they are being the dimension. They're being
I
a
don't
part of
know.
that.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say yes or no to that. But
Yeah.
but he said we partake of source energy. And I said, oh yeah, you're transcendental. He said, no, he said, bigger than that. I just couldn't get it, right? I mean, that somebody could be part of source energy or partake of source. I couldn't get it. And he said, we are from the absolute. Oh man, oh gosh, it's big. So
Wow. Wow, the
that's,
perfected beings. The perfected angels are perfected beings. Is that
yes.
how it
Oh,
is?
definitely, definitely. They are perfected beings. Yes, yes.
Wow.
Um, there are 144 archangels. I thought there would be billions of archangels. No, Michael says there are 144. He says, however, we can be in hundreds of thousands of places at once. So, anyways,
Wow.
so I was talking about the experience of love, and suddenly my life was transformed. And by the way, I I've yet to meet very many people who know what I'm talking about, who really do know that love. One of them is a woman named June Meek,
Mhm.
and she did an article on the blog in which she saw just what you were talking about. It was as if she had a window into this other dimension, right? It was the sixth dimension for her, and she saw all these people weeping because they were experiencing this love that they never knew existed. Right. So there's an example of somebody seeing into another dimension as if it's a window, right? And it seemed to relate to something you were saying earlier.
Right. So I'm trying to so after I'm visualizing something, if you can correct me. So when your heart was unsealed or opened in the second experience, right?
Yes.
After that, in regards to your mind and imagination, I would consider that there would be an incredible level of trust. So would that mean your inner realms was instantaneous? Were you instantaneously knowing things like you could just go beside someone and feel like their problems and just
No,
get a sense of like that?
no. It only meant that I knew what love was. That's all.
Oh,
I am, apart from that, I am still everything I always was. I don't know this and I do know that. That did not change. All that changed was that I now know what love is, and also that I can experience that love. That's all that changed.
that for a long time, I had a
But it
sense.
was
Oh, sorry, go
it was enough. What were you gonna say?
on. No, no, I was just going to say that, it's so refreshing to hear that because in my experience, I don't know what had happened in my just psyche and all of this, that I felt that I was unworthy of love for a
Mm-hmm.
long time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was in some sense where I felt a part of me felt like I didn't understand why I felt unworthy
Mm-hmm.
until I realized I'm looking for a specific love.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I realized, like, okay, who is loving here? What is loving here? I realized I don't know. So how can I be certain I'm unworthy of love?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it
Yeah.
kind of went
Yeah.
something.
Right. How can you? Yeah. You don't even know what you're measuring against. Yeah.
Right.
Well, just ask the our archangel, our universal self, our guardians and our guides, and the Divine Mother are responsible for our enlightenment experiences. They're the team that manage those experiences. So just ask them for what you want. They will interpret that as a sign of readiness.
Right. For me, I had an experience I talk about in the lectures early on after those like channeling, like poetry experiences in my mind. I was in a sort of dialogue to a point. I would unsee. I'm a person who I would say I feel more than I
Hmm.
see. I can feel like
Yeah.
see things in the room. That voice, my intuition, it told me early on, and I ended up saying this to people too in the lectures. It told me, okay, I'll give you context. This stuff, automatic speech writing was happening. A close friend of mine came and said, "Hey, man, what if this is like a demon throwing a rock at you, and then you suddenly notice the rock, and then you become attached to like this demon or something like that." Right? He was, I don't know why he was saying that shit, but he was saying something like that. Right? At the time, I had no, I didn't consider it, but this voice, logos, the logos voice, it told me don't try to see a face to the other side. And I asked it why. And it said because you will become attached to it, right? It said something to that degree to me. And believe it or not, to this point, I feel there's something here, but I haven't seen it. You
Hmm.
see, it's not something of a visual level, but I just feel, where are these words coming from? Or,
Hmm.
how momentum coming from? Right?
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
how would you see this? Would you say that that's just, their measures for me specifically?
Well, there is a line of reasoning, and it's certainly prominent in Christian circles. Might be prominent in Muslim circles. I don't know. That says that channeling is consulting with dark spirits, and there's a passage in the
Right, right.
Bible where Samuel goes and talks to the spirits, and I think he talks to Saul, I believe. And this is regarded by fundamentalists as very, very bad. Shouldn't be doing
I would
this.
say I have in my that was my friend's experience. In my
Mhm.
experience, all that stuff was advancing my life. That's how I knew it was a good energy,
Yeah,
right?
that's
If
what
it
you
wasn't,
know, but yeah, your friend doesn't seem to share that opinion.
no, no,
But
because
yeah.
later on I figured out he'd gotten scared. Like he was at home alone, and then he felt like he suddenly saw the devil in his house, and then he got scared and all of that, and then
Oh
his
well.
mind had opened up to that sort of spirituality first. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
right.
saying?
Yes, I do.
And at the time, I was so preferenceless. I think he was like freaking out. He was saying all this stuff, and I was just like, okay. It wasn't like, making me like, freak out and all of that. I was just like, okay, it could be, because it
Hmm.
wasn't visual. I think that was the blessing I had. That
Yeah.
because it wasn't visual, I continued. Because if it
Hmm.
had been visual, I might have had an opinion. Like, yo, what is this
Hmm.
being? Is this being telling me who is this being? You know, do you know what I'm saying? But because it was
Uh-huh.
feeling, I trusted it.
Uh-huh.
It was like a moment of, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
But anyways, so your heart opened, and then should we go on to the third, the
sure.
mighty third,
Yes.
third celeste
The
of
third
Aspen?
was again another fourth chakra experience, and when I was talking to Michael about it after, I said, "How can I've already had the fourth chakra experience? How could I have another?" And he said, "Oh no, you can have fourth chakra experiences. Many of them. Not." And he said, "In fact, you should."
Mhm.
um, but he does not want me to go too fast or to lose the connection to my readership. Um, if I go too far up the dimensional ladder, I won't be accessible. I'll be this lofty figure or something, and that's counterproductive.
That
So,
explains my subscribers, I think.
mhm, uh-huh. Well, it would be the same
That-
for you. Yeah, yeah.
Um, I just want to share something. You said that it is true. For example, religion may see it as they acknowledge another dimension, and they see it as blasphemy, but I want to also tell you an experience I had, just to clarify also for the viewers that are listening. Um, I had this messed up dream, and I wake up, and I this was around those time before 2014, and
Mhm.
I feel like the concept of spirit guides and guardian angels. Steve, this is really interesting for me to share with you. Like, so what I do is I go on this website, and there's this guy in a forum, and he says, I have made 800, I think some ridiculous number of people connect to their guardian angels, and this is how you do it. And he said that you say your name, I, your full name, am now ready to meet my guardian angels now. That's what he was saying. He was saying like that was his way. So I remember I had this messed up dream. I was like, what does this mean? What sort of divine sign is this? And then I read this thing, and I was alone at home, and we had this rectangular table at the time. I was with my parents. We had this rectangular table, and I was alone, and I'm sitting on the shorter end of one. And the moment I say this, again, not visual experience, I feel three beings
You
appear.
feel three what?
I feel three
Yes.
beings appear simultaneously in the room, a height of, I would say, like a meter beyond, like my size. And I get this feeling, one of them, two of them are together, male, female. I saw the color blue. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
later on, my mind associated the color blue to the female, the color
Mm-hmm.
yellow to the male, and
Yeah.
then there was another male kind of like I don't know how to say, male energy. All these three came at the same time. I got goosebumps, and that's when, honestly, I think it became really real for me. This
Mm-hmm.
sense that there's, I
Yes.
mean, it doesn't even make sense that the other side can just be evil, right? I mean, it's like they're both there. Do you know? There's like
Mm-hmm.
good beings everywhere, right? Good and bad beings everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, I just wanted to say that in case of, just add context.
Mm-hmm. Um, boy. Well, you certainly have contact with the other side, that's for sure. Um, yeah. Wow. Well, I would say keep developing it, see what comes of it. I mean, they're certainly using you. So, and the more you do, like I was looking at your YouTube channel, you've done a great deal of work, and the more you do, the more they have contact with you. You know what I mean? They see your willingness to put the word out. And for instance, I'm kind of a guinea pig. Michael says they try out things on me and see how it goes, so to speak. And they do that because they know I'll write about it, right? They give me experiences because they know I'll write about it. So it
Right, right. If you're
could
that
be
makes
that.
that makes perfect sense. If you can acknowledge that reality, they'll be like, yo, someone is noticing in that sense.
Definitely. Oh, God, definitely. Lots of people on the other side are noticing, I'm sure. You can, at any time, contact a medium, pardon me, and see if you can get in touch with your archangel and
Yeah,
see what they want from you.
right, right. I mean, I've I'm 31.
Hmm.
I've the conclusion I've come to, honestly, and some people have criticized me on this, but this is my reality. I ultimately realize I'm an unknown being in an unknown world. And that has become, I've reached this point because, let me tell you this, I looked at it that there's infinite viewpoints here. So if
Hmm.
we didn't create the world, if we didn't create all this, how do we know which one to look through? Right? So I came to an intellectual position where I'm like, yo, I could look at this from so many ways, right? But then I was like, and I don't know, like, I didn't create this place. So right now, my experience, I'm not looking for other beings anymore. It's more like I'm just present, and the unknown, I'm noticing the unknown throughout the day. Do you know? Like when somebody
Hmm.
comes and sometimes talks to me, or something happens out of nowhere, I instantly notice it. And from childhood, I mentioned to you, I have a twin brother, right?
Hmm.
I'll tell you this, Muslims go to this place called Mecca, I don't know.
Yeah, I know about Mecca.
So
Yeah.
when I was, me and my family go there when I was 14, right? And I remember for some reason the season we went there, there was grasshoppers, ridiculous amount of grasshoppers on the building, on
Hmm.
that deck, on the Kaaba,
Kaaba.
right, right. And my brother and me and my brother, twin brother, 14-year-olds, and we shaved our heads completely. We're standing beside my father, and my father is there, and a grasshopper hits my brother's head. Okay, my brother stops crying, like he starts crying, like, why did this happen? And then everybody comes up to him and says, "Yo, this is a blessing. You're blessed." You know? And that's what I wanted to say. As his twin brother, I saw like he was upset why it had happened, but it was so rare that it had happened. Do you see what I'm saying? So I could
Uh-huh.
see the karma prior.
Yeah.
I could understand the karma of beings to some
Hmm.
extent, or at least my twin brother, or life was like, yo, I'm gonna put a being that looks like you, but doesn't think like you and is completely different than you, right? So every day you're gonna wake up and see this being, right? This twin brother in front of you that dislikes you sometimes, that fights with you all the time. So my twins are experiencing kind of like fighting with themselves all the time, but their self is a different being. This is why I
Uh-huh.
feel, this is my personal opinion, that twins become really spiritual
Yeah.
with time, you know?
Uh-huh.
But
Could very well
um,
be. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I just felt like sharing that. But again,
Yeah.
Steve, um, I keep, you keep saying such interesting things. I keep, relating. But the third experience, how did that leave you at the end?
Well,
What was your,
the third experience came in 2018. So 1987, 2015, 2018. And it came about as a result of a reader writing me and saying, you sound tired. You need a vacation. And she sent me $1,000, right?
wow.
And so I used it to go on a retreat to Xenia Retreat Center over on Bowen Island. Just I'm looking out my window, and in front of me is Bowen Island. Uh, and I went through this retreat in silence and just myself. And the night of the last day, I somehow connected with Daryl Zubnik's Dark Outpost. And this Dark Outpost was on Frazzle Drip. And not only Frazzle Drip, but photographs that augmented what Frazzle Drip was all about. Uh, Frazzle Drip and the photos that went along with it were so uh, horrendous, I guess, horrible. Uh, what they are doing with people, with young children mostly, uh, if people knew about it, they would be in shock, just in shock. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even want to say, well, I saw this. It was so horrible that I have to watch myself that I don't secondarily traumatize somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so there I was, just shocked to my core and in utter dismay at what the Illuminati were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the next morning I was going to leave. And the next morning I got up about 6. I don't think I was going to leave till about 9. And I began to meditate. And in my meditation, I went down in an elevator 100 floors, got to the bottom of it. And all of a sudden, when I opened the doors, I was swooshed out and found myself flying through a tunnel in my heart, and flying and flying and flying. And suddenly I came to a cul-de-sac, uh, which I think you could call the bottom of your heart, from the bottom of my heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Deepest part of my heart. And there in this cul-de-sac, there was a room off to the left and a kind of a ledge. It was all red. Everything was red. And on this ledge was this luminous light. It was not brighter than 1,000 suns. It was more luminous than bright. And I thought, well, that's strange. But in its presence, I felt innocent and pure, right? Later, I talked to the mother and I say, hey, what the heck happened? That wasn't brighter than 1,000 suns. She said, oh, brighter than a million billion suns. And she said, if you'd seen that, son, you would have departed. You would have left your soul contract. That you would have left your soul design, which we all have participated in, giving you, and you would have gone off to some place and finished the job. And he said, that isn't what you're here for. So she said, yes, we toned it down. It wasn't as bright as it should be. And so anyway, so I emerge from this experience now knowing that I wasn't born in sin. I had had an experience of how I was at core, at essence, and it was pure and innocent. So it meant that I had a lot more confidence in myself. That myth of being born in sin was gone,
Mhm.
right? Now, what was the fallout, the result of all that? I now had seen the self. I'm not sure that that resulted in near the impact that the heart opening had had. Uh, yeah, no, it's just of interest, really. It didn't.
I don't know why this question's coming to my mind to ask you. I
Yeah.
don't know why, and sorry if it's on it might be a tangent, but does the word central sun have any, does that relate? Because many times I've had
Well,
this thing where they've constantly in my writing specifically, for some reason I'm writing about the central sun, right?
yes.
And as if, and I don't know why, but in the writing, in my writings, it came across as like the center of this place, there's a sun or something
Hmm.
like that,
That's
right?
correct.
Or
Yeah.
or or something you might not know. I write a lot of science fiction. In my
Hmm.
science fiction, I speak about beings going to the central sun as the last, as a sort of uh, last level here in this
Yeah.
world,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah,
Yeah.
that,
There is a central sun. That is the the chief portal for the mother's energy, which she sends into this world. The father is passive. Uh, the mother is the active one. Um, and of course, we're not talking about all of, how can I say this? I don't mean all of creation, but whatever's beyond creation, the transcendental, the absolute, transcendental absolute, we used to call it, as a matter of fact. Well, the central sun is the chief entry point for the mother's energy. And then it goes down to the sun of the central sun for a dimension, and then to the central sun of a galaxy, and then the suns in the solar system. And gradually it gets to us. We're about to experience a solar flash, right? And
Mhm.
that will result in a planetary heart opening. And that's coming from our central sun, which is the sun, Sol.
Right, right. So Steve, I have two questions.
Yeah.
And one question, this one you pointed out, you said, what is the purpose of life? But the way I'm going to ask you this is, if a being, let's say a being just came to you on this earth, random being, and
Mm-hmm.
said, what's going on in this world?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, imagine somebody just asked you, what's going on here? And they don't know anything
Mm-hmm.
at all, right? Aside from just the visual that we're on a rock in the middle of nowhere. So how would you say what's going on here? Like that's something I'd be really fascinated to hear. Or what is the purpose of life? That it would
Okay.
be similar.
Well, in terms of what is going on here. We've reached the end of an age. It's much like the end of a play. Everything wraps up, and the actors leave the stage and come back for a bow and leave the stage again. And the control groups, the power groups, the elite of this world, which has been in power since beyond beyond memory. Sorry, that's my alarm. Uh, which has been in power since, Babylon, and way before that. There's always been an elite in power. Is now either making the switch to not controlling or trying to control the world population. They're actually trying to bring our numbers down through toxic vaccines and chemtrails and things like that. They are leaving the stage. Their time is up. They knew that a time would come when they'd need to pack up and leave, and we're watching that. Some of them are leaving through military tribunals. Some of them are leaving through heart attacks. The mother once said to me that the kindest thing we can do with people who are still trying to be evil is to stop their hearts and bring them home. It's not painful. It's just the compassionate way. They're just going to be miserable from this point on.
Right.
Might as well bring them home. So they will be leaving, and we then will sweep up, gather up all the residue, the detritus, the overburden, and sweep it aside, clean the earth up, and then build a new world, build a new society on love. Because at that point, have been through the planetary heart opening, so we'll know what love is at that point, and our hearts will be open somewhat.
Mhm.
We'll be able to begin to live from love. And then eventually, probably a year or two down the line, we'll ascend. And at that point, of course, we'll have access to all the dimensions because
Ah,
this is
yeah.
new. This is a new world.
You,
So that's what it's all about. That's what's happening there. We're taking over from the Illuminati.
in my lectures, I created this concept. I call it advancement beyond the language threshold. The vision, I had this vision that us being biological beings is a phase in
Mm-hmm. Yep,
nature. And
absolutely.
for some
Yep.
reason, just like you were saying, 8 seconds came to you. For me, this number came that 3,600 years from now, beings will be at a position where they don't have to be anything at all if they want. That means neither an object or subject to that,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
here, not like in other dimensions. I mean here.
Oh,
You know,
well, yeah, Ascension will certainly, I think it will leave us in that position. I'm not sure.
so that person, let's say, that is asking you what's going on here.
Yeah.
Is there, can you say it like a short story? Not sorry, not like a short story. I mean, I want the viewers to something that even I feel I haven't even understood completely is how should people think about like the ideas of the Galactic Federation, or you hear something like the Ashtar Command or stuff like that, right? How should people approach these, or what is the context? Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
a disconnect from people who their experience is just this, and then suddenly, like I had it through a dream, like it was for me directly an experience. But like
Mhm.
for those people who don't have the direct experience, how should they look at this?
Contextualize it.
Yes, yes,
Well,
exactly.
it's a change of planetary management. That's one thing.
Wow.
Um, and the new managers, what guides them and what they're aiming for is a planet that loves again, a planet that knows love again and is steeped in it, and creates a new world out of that experience of love.
Wow.
So that's what's happening.
Wow.
It's a restoration, like Gaia. Well, not Gaia, Earth. Gaia is the spirit. Earth is the planet. Earth was designed to be a place where angels could come and have the physical experience of love. Loving a person. And I personally have had that experience a number of times in my life, and it's been nothing but argument and I mean, God, power games and what. I don't know what the angels want from it, but boy, oh boy.
That's so
And
funny. Oh my God.
anyways, that is the original purpose, that this would be a planet where the angels could come and have the physical experience of love. And that's where it's going. That's what the mother's intention is, to return it to that. And she has the original creator race here, us angels. We're the originals that, worked with the created world in the beginning.
Mhm.
We're back. And
The original Earth idea. Is that what you mean?
yes,
Some
restore
view,
it to the original Earth idea. Yes.
like the
Yes.
old soul is one of the original, like is that kind of how you're seeing it? Like an
No,
old l- um
no, not an old soul. Angels. It was to give angels a playground.
oh, oh,
Earth was
okay.
to be a playground for angels.
Okay, I was looking at it differently then.
Yeah, there. If you go to the downloads page, there's a book called "An Explosion in the Meaning of Humanness," and that book talks all about our angelic background.
Wow.
Michael talks about it. Um,
When you said the management of the planet is changed,
yes, yes,
the
that's right.
mo- I for my mind just saw the idea of divine management,
Yep, that's
right?
right.
And
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was like an insight, right?
yeah.
That
No,
it's like it's just
no.
fascinating.
Well, when you realize that we're all angels, then so many things become possible that we haven't even dreamed of. I mean, and Michael has said, you were born into this incarnation with all your angelic capabilities, just a little bit off from you, and now your job is to claim them, start using them.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh my God, what you're saying. I spoke to someone and they told them that they said that when they went to India, they asked someone what's yoga, and the person looked at him and said, "Just enjoy."
right,
That
that's right, that's
that's
right.
what the guy said. And this guy, ever since that day, he's not trying to get enlightened. He's not trying to be, he's enjoying what he's being.
That's
You know what I'm
wonderful.
saying? Like,
That's wonderful. Joy is a divine state. That's
yeah.
wonderful. It's all about getting into and staying in a divine state, like love or bliss, ecstasy, peace.
Yeah.
Abundance is a divine state. Mastery is a divine state.
So, Steve, it has been amazing. And there's one question I ask everybody. That's my intention. What message in a bottle would you give to the future generations, all the unborn children, all the unborn beings that will come here? What message in a bottle will you give them?
Love, love. There is no other message with the power of that message. Love, love for all you're worth. Love till it hurts. Love till the door opens, and then the love that pours out of you at that point will be all the reward you'll ever want.
You're right.
everything will pale in in
Yeah,
comparison.
even love your ignorance, maybe.
Absolutely. Whatever. You love must flow. Love must flow. So if we want to experience love, we need to draw it up from our heart and send it out to the world. That's a flow, right? And we get to experience it as it flows through us. And that's how it works. Love has to be shared to be experienced. There you
Wow.
go. That's why I tell future generations.